Hello, my name is Kevin Ibanez, and I am here today to talk to you about what harmful algal blooms are and why it is important that we look into them, why we monitor them, why we study them, and how we can hope to prevent them. Okay. So first up, harmful algal blooms, or HABs for short, are these massive outbreaks of algal colonies. It's when algae grows out of control. Usually, they are pretty devastating to the environment for a number of different reasons. Okay, it really depends on what type of algae we're looking at. We have green tides, red tides, brown tides, and rust tides, and these all refer to the different species of algae that is staying in the water. Some algae can produce toxins that result in paralytic shellfish poisoning. On right over here, we have the Alexandrium cantonella. That is a species of red tide algae known to produce toxin, a saxitoxin that results in paralytic shellfish poisoning. What happens is that fish will ingest these algae and it'll attack their nervous system and prevent them from being able to, run water over their gills, right? They now are starting to suffocate in the water. If something that then eats that fish, then that organism is susceptible to the paralytic shellfish poisoning. There have been a few cases of paralytic shellfish poisoning even occurring in humans and being deadly because they've eaten contaminated fish, right? Another effect of HABs is that they deplete the water of oxygen and sunlight. Okay, when harmful algal blooms proliferate, when they reproduce, when they start to really reach that massive size, they can block out the water column from sunlight, and it can cause a temperature decrease in the water. And any species that needs the sunlight or needs a warmer temperature below that would start to see some adverse effects. Now, when the species of algae start to decay, die, and whatnot, right, bacteria will come and start breaking them down. And while they're breaking down the algae, what it'll do is it'll eat up all the oxygen in the water, and it starts to create um, hypoxic conditions where there's again not a lot of oxygen in the water, and even anoxic conditions. So now we're looking at fish that can't breathe because they're being poisoned by the toxin, and also fish that can breathe that don't have the oxygen available to them. This results in fish kills, which are massive fish die-offs because there is no oxygen in the water for them. It weakens the ecosystem in the fishing industry and coastal communities as well. When this happens, a lot of these fish will wash up on the shore, start to decay, and it creates this awful stench, right? But also now think of all the species that would then eat these fish, us included. If these fish die, they are no longer viable for consumption, whether we're talking about in the water as part of the ecosystem or on our plate. Now, what causes harmful algal blooms, right? A major cause of harmful algal blooms is eutrophication, which is the excessive amounts of nutrients in the water. In this case, it's going to be nitrogen and phosphorus. Um, these are chemicals that are essential for plants and for growth. This can come in the form of like fertilizer runoff from people's yards, or here on Long Island, one of our big issues is septic leakages, and from our septic system, where we have this nitrogenous waste going into our waterways, and then the algae jumping on those chemicals and saying, we can grow now, we have what we need, let's bloom. Unfortunately, these blooms can be devastating to coastal communities. All right, so if you go to the beach, sometimes the water is blocked off because of a bloom event, because that algae can be dangerous, like the one we saw earlier, the Alexandrium species, the red tide species, right? Because we don't want to be exposed to that saxitoxin. Um, or we have a massive fish die off, and now we're seeing a lot of dead organisms washing up on the water, washing up on the shore, ruining our beach. Right now, let's kind of expand the thought a little bit. Fisheries, industries that rely on the beach or the water, like boating industries, rentals. If we don't have good water quality, we people won't want to come back to Long Island and we start to lose money that way. But at the same time, you know, we start to lose our home. One of the beautiful things about living on Long Island is that there's water in every direction that you head, and it's beautiful water. But it's just heartbreaking to see that the water quality has declined because of these harmful algal blooms. And my hope is that, by studying them, we can start to prevent them, start to monitor them better, and start to see our water quality improve. And we start to see you know, some of these other species start to come back to the water, like dolphins and sharks and other fishes. I want to see that return. Anyway, thank you for watching. This has been part of Project Dragonfly, run out of the University of Miami of Ohio. I hope you learned a little bit about harmful algal blooms and why it's important that we study them. And if you're still interested, keep scrolling. There's plenty more on this page. Thank you.